Good day! In this morning, we're going to tackle about Instructional Technology. Introduction. In this chapter, we'll be dealing mainly with audiovisual and electronic media. Technology is conceived as instructional when through specialized materials and equipment which supplements the conventional process of instruction. Through specialized materials and equipment, it makes possible for creating stimuli that was impossible or impractical to bring inside the classroom or school. For instance, we can't bring museum or a plaza inside the classroom or school, but through technology, we will able to create a stimuli. We will able to make our students feel and experience how or what it feels like to be in a museum or a plaza. So, the use of instructional technology is dependent on your knowledge, teaching assignment, capability of the equipment, and availability. And of course, for effective use, it does require guidelines. In using instructional technology, we have here 4 steps that are recommended. Number 1, prepare. Number 2, arrange. Number 3, operate. And number 4, summarize. Number 1, prepare. What will we going to prepare? Well, let us prepare the students for what they are going to see, hear, or do. This may entail a brief explanation. Number 2, arrange. Arrange the conditions to show special materials under the best possible conditions so they do not interrupt the momentum of the lesson. For example, making an adjustment such as changing the seats arrangement. Number 3, operate. Operate the equipment efficiently. It is either the teacher or the assistant will probably be responsible for this task. Number 4, summarize the experience and follow up it with a discussion. Moreover, Charles Kohler lists at least 4 slightly different steps. Number 1, define the objectives. Number 2, know the content. Number 3, guide learners in what to look for. And number 4, evaluate the results. Number 1, define your objectives. Clearly defined objectives are essential starting point for selecting and effectively using learning resources of any kind. Number 2, know the content. Knowledge of the content of film, software, or other materials is essential in determining whether you will use it and how to use it to the best advantage. Number 3, guide learners on what to look for. One of the most in using media effectively is to focus learners' attention on specific things to attend while viewing, listening, or reacting to assigned materials. Number 4, evaluate the results. To know whether the materials and equipment have been used effectively, or did the particular lesson accomplish your objectives? Before we continue our instructional technology topic, allow me to give you some guidelines of our lesson for this morning. A. Chalk and display board. B. Film strips and film slides. C. Overhead projector. D. Television. E. Computers. Under computers, we have computer programming, computer software. F. Telecommunication systems. Under telecommunication systems, we have satellite dishes, teleconferences, teletext systems, typewriting, telepicture phones, and telecourses. And lastly, G. Video systems. Under video systems, we have videotapes, video cassettes, video disc, video printers, and video games. Okay, before anything else, let me share to you some quadraries or situation in which we are confused about what to do. In Instructional Technology, written by Harold G. Shane, Emeritus Professor of Education at Indiana University, Bloomington. Since the transistor 1947 and the single-unit microchip 1959 made their debuts, they had an enormous, rapid, increasing impact on education. Electronic gear has created a milestone in the history of school. And here are some milestones. Number 1, young children must be protected from the habit of letting a computer for a second rather than their mind find answers. Thus, the way teachers use electronic tools in learning millennium must avoid acquiring a frozen curriculum. Additionally, composite use of gear by young people for pranks, vandalism, and fraud must be discouraged. Number 2, there is a great and generally unrecognized danger in electronic pulse or EMP or ANT phenomenon. So what is electronic magnetic pulse? It is a sound wave vibration, a brief disruption or disturbance of pressure in a medium. The EMP, while harmless to humans, carries an energy surge which can cause electronic damage. We must not become too dependent on microelectronics support systems, while an EMP blast caused by a nuclear explosion or fire could render much of our equipment inoperative. Schools must not be dependent to computers and robots that an EMP or EMP blast would render them virtually impotent. In other words, we may use instructional technology or electronic gears in learning, or we can let our children or pupils use computer, but we must use it properly. We must use it in a proper way, and we must not be too dependent on some technologies or computers. Instructional technology, chalkboard and display board. Chalkboard and display board certainly do not represent any advanced technology, but they are definitely visual aids. Chalkboard is perhaps the oldest and the most traditional piece of equipment found in classroom, next to textbooks, which is the most widely used instructional aid. It is also popular because it allows spontaneity, speed, and change. It fits the tempo of any lessons and particularly valuable for emphasizing the major points of a lesson or working out problems. Meanwhile, display boards are used for displaying students' projects and progress. It's used for displaying current items or interests related to a lesson or unit, posting announcements, memos, and routine as assignment or decorating room. It also has many types like bulletin board, pegboard, flannel, and magnetic board. Fun fact, why name blackboard? In older school, most blackboards is color black, but black tends to absorb light and make the room gloomy. It's being replaced to light green and yellow, which reduce glare and eye strain. It also absorbs less light and cheerful and provide a good contrast. Moving on, here are some guidelines for using chalk. Number 1, write legible and large enough for all to see. Number 2, use the chalk as you are writing on a paper. Start with your left and right and be mindful with the margins. Number 3, While writing, stand to one side of the board as much as possible so that you can maintain eye contact with the students. Number 4. When referring to work already on the chalkboard, stand to the side so you don't block the student's view. Use pointer, a ruler, or yardstick will do. Number 5. Don't talk towards the chalk while writing on it. Number 6. If the chalkboard space is limited, draw a line down the middle of the board, thus creating a margin and 2 smaller boards. Please allow to use space more efficiently. Number 7. Organize your chalkboard work system. You can outline items with letters or numbers as possible. 8. Don't clutter the board. Limit your writing and drawing to major ideas of the lesson. 9. If you abbreviate, use standard forms. Number 10. Utilize colored chalk, rulers, string, stencils, and other materials to make your illustrations more effective. Number 11. Don't get embarrassed or show resentment if you make mistake and the student corrects you. Instead, thank the student for the help. Number 12. If you are working with young or low-achieving students, write a complete sentence or write incomplete sentences. They need to practice in seeing and writing correct grammar. Number 13. Establish routine use for Blackboard. Number 14. Erase the chalkboards completely after you finish and clean them or keep them clean. If busy, ask the student to erase while you continue with other part of the lesson. And lastly, number 15. Don't overuse the chalkboard. You can ditto or memograph lengthy per complicated materials. Another instructional technologies are films, film strips, and film slides. Film is the most influential and seductive educational medium for transmitting ideas and persuading an audience to a point of view. Thousands of good film has made expressly for educational purposes. They can be divided into the following categories. Number 1, history. Number 2, dramatic. Number 3, special topic. Number 4, slice of life. And lastly, number 5, animated. The movie is particularly useful for showing processes in which motion is involved or in which slow motion can be used. Moving on to film strips are a series of pictures in a fixed sequence on a strip of 35mm film for still projection. Film strips are compact, easy to store, relatively inexpensive to buy, easy to project, and somewhat flexible in use because pictures thought to be unnecessary and can be skipped over. Explanatory symbols or captions are often incorporated. Film strips with recorded sound narrations are called sound film strips are being produced. Next is film slides. Film slides are individual pieces of film for projection mounted on thin cardboard or plastic frames, usually in 2-inch squares. They are more flexible to use than film strips, since unnecessary slides can be omitted. Slides can be changed manually or automatically with a device that advances the slides at present time intervals. Here are some guidelines for using films, film strips, and film slides. Number 1. Keep the films list up to date. Number 2. When ordering from resources, put aside the school, be sure to order well in advances of the screening date. Number 3. Review the film to make sure it is appropriate to the student's interest and maturity level and to familiarize yourself with the content. Number 4. Arrange to have the projector and screen or video in the classroom and set up on the day schedule for showing the film. Number 5. Be sure all students can see the screen. Prepare students for presentation. Number 7. Note-taking is difficult in a darkened room and should not to be expected or encouraged while the projector is running. Number 8. Use the equipment properly. Film a video or use the equipment properly. Number 9. View a film without interruptions if possible. Number 10. If complimentary is needed during the movie, either stop the projector or reduce the volume, but do this as little as possible. Number 11. When showing film strips with written caption, call on volunteers to read them or summarizes detailed captions. Don't call on non-volunteers because it may be embarrassing for them if the captions are difficult to read. Number 12. Allow time for discussion after the film. Number 13. Be sure to put the film back properly into container. And lastly, number 14. Disconnect all wires. Store 3 equipments in a appropriate place at the end of the lesson or day. Before moving on to overhead projector, here are some pictures of films, film strips, and film slides that can be used in our classroom. Overhead projector. In my elementary days, our teacher used overhead projector. To those who don't know what is overhead projector, let me explain to you what is an overhead projector is. The overhead projector projects images of transparencies on a screen, wall, or chalkboard. The transparency is placed on a glass on top of the projector. Light from the lamp located in the projector produces an image that is reflected onto the viewing surface in the back of projector. The room does not need to be dark. Students can take notes. The machine is lightweight and portable because of the overhead projector is so convenient to use. It has become the standard equipment in many classrooms, just like in my elementary days. Our teachers use overhead projectors. And moving on, and has replaced the chalkboard and opaque projector in many of their functions. Handmade transparencies are usually made of plastic and drawn with a felt pen or grease pencil to prevent smudging. Start coloring in the center of the transparency and work towards the edges. Type materials can be added with the use of thermofax and machines. Here are some guidelines for using projectors. Number 1. Keep the materials up to date. Number 2. Arrange ahead of time to have the projector and other necessary materials available when you need them. Number 3. Review the materials on or prepare them before class begins. Number 4. Handle overhead transparencies with care. Don't smudge them, get fingerprint on them, or let the colors from the grease pens run together before dying. Number 5. Label materials properly for filling and reshowing. Number 6. Be sure the materials are appropriate for the student's interest and maturity level and they fulfill their instructional objectives. Number 7. Be sure all the students can see the surface on which the material is projected. Focus on the materials properly. Number 8. Arrange the materials in sequence with the lesson. Number 9. Explain and discuss each of the projected materials. And lastly, shut off the machine when it is not in use during discussion. Next instructional technology is television. Television is one of the most influential medium of communication, information, and entertainment. There is also a recent evidence that makes it clear that television has become a second school system. Children under 5 years old watch television an average of 24 hours a week, or about 1/5 of their waking hours. By the time a child graduates from high school, he or she will have spent 15,000 to 20,000 hours in front of the screen as compared to 11,000 to 12,000 hours of school. Before children reach 18, they will have 350 commercials arguing them to want. While Neil Postman used television on the other mass media such as radio, comic books, and movies as first curriculum because they appear to be affecting the way children develop learning skills and acquire knowledge and understanding. According to Postman and others, television's curriculum is designed largely to maintain interest. The school's curriculum is supposed to have other purposes such as mastery of thinking. Moreover, watching television requires little effort and few skills. So this is the pros of television because television in children do not have to think about or solve problems. Rather, they become accustomed to rapid changing stimuli, quick answers, and escapist fantasies, not to mention overdose of violence and sex behavior on the screen. Research suggests that selected programs for preschool and primary grades such as Sesame Street and Electric Company are associated with improved cooperative behavior and cognitive skills. However, most of the data suggests that more than 5 hours a day is associated with lowered achievement in reading and mathematics. Because of television's impact on acculturation and socialization of children and youth, its influence on all society, educators cannot ignore this medium. They must find ways to reverse the trend towards lower achievement resulting from too much time spent watching badly produced commercial television, and we teachers must find ways to incorporate the medium into the school curriculum. There are 2 types of television programming can be employed in school. First is educational television. Educational television refers to programs produced for broadcast or commercial or public television stations that are intended to inform and develop understanding. Students watch these programs at home. Second type is the instructional television. Instructional television refers to the programs produced by schools to teach specific skills and subject matter and for viewing in school. Many commercial and public television stations produce programs that fit educational goals, and objects. Here are some guidelines for using television. Number 1. Select program to coincide with learners' level of interest and maturity and with instructional objectives. Consider the educational significance, quality, content, writing, and production. Number 2. Make sure the classroom or media center is suitable for viewing the program. Check the lights and shades, acoustic arrangement, setting facilities, and placements of the television. Number 3. Classroom television should have set at least 21-inch screen. It should be placed so that all students can see it well. It should be not less than 5 feet or more than 30 feet away from any student. It should be placed slightly above the height of the heads of the students or about 5 to 7 feet from the floor. Number 4. Lights should be left on if the students are to take notes. If they are not expected to take notes, the light can be dimmed somewhat for improved viewing. Number 5. There should be no glare or reflected light on the screen. Keep the television away from windows and change the location of the light. If the source of the reflected light cannot be changed, either tilt the set downward or tape the cardboard blinders to set. Number 6. Before a program is viewed, give students any necessary background data and tell them what to expect. You may want to hand out question sheets that focus on major points. These are especially helpful if students are assigned to watch a program at home. 7. Avoid using the program as lecturing device or substitute for instruction. Integrate it into the lesson and discussion. 8. Keep questions and comments during the program to a minimum or ask students to save them until the end of the program. Number 9. After the program, hold a discussion to analyze the main point. Number 10. The ideal program lasts no longer than 2/3 of the subject period, so there is time for introduction and summary. Number 11. By using videotapes, program can be fit into daily class schedule. If the student system operates a network, it can play programs to fit class schedules. And lastly, when assigned program for homework, make sure all students have access to television set. Arrangement such as a buddy system should be made for those who do not. Now, television has a potential for adding students' knowledge. Students can learn about current events and scientific advances, be exposed to dramatic and musical performance, and become better acquainted with the leading figures in the worlds of the art and world of art, science, politics, and business. When used properly, this instructional aid can stimulate discussion and further study the topic. It can bring the specialists and the expert teachers to class in front of hundreds of students at once or thousands of students over time. If taped and played again, schools cannot offer specialized subject matter can use television as means of providing instruction through pre-recorded programs. Another instructional technology is computer. Computer is one of the most useful media or technology nowadays. It is used by almost many, especially in schools. You see, computer technology has been available since the year 1950s, but it is the last years that computers have become to have major impact on classrooms and schools. In the year 1980, some 50,000 microcomputers were in use in 15% of the nation's schools. By the year 1985, the numbers reached 500,000 in 92% of all public schools. And in year 1990, there's expected to have more than 2 million computers in use nearly 99% of the school. It is envisioned that most high school will soon be offering students an average of 30 minutes per day at computer terminal. Many elementary schools and most middle grade and junior schools already have learned on computer once or twice a week. Some 500,000 or more teachers are expected to be teaching computer technology as their main subject between year 1990 to year 1995. In integrating computer into instructional methods, teachers should consider the following question. Number 1, what are the objectives of using computers in schools? Number 2, should they be restricted to students who have particular abilities, to particular grade levels, to particular subjects? Number 3, should they be used to teach about computing or programming or teach other subjects? Number 4, should students be in charge user fees for computers? Number 5, who will train teachers in computer use? Number 6, should the classroom be recognized to have computers at every desk, or should a computer center or laboratory be set up? Moving on to the role of computers. According to Decker-Walker, it is good to maintain or maintains few people who really know how to use computer well for educational purposes. However, Seymour Papert, inventor of Logo, author of Mindstorm, argues that computer is a medium of expression and to improve thinking skills. He argues that main impact of computers of learning will come about teaching students particular applications such as data processing and filling. But the real impact will come only when students are taught how to program, because programming requires what they think logically and solve problems. When students learn how to program, the world is open to very wonderful things to happen. In the midst of information explosion, the generation and availability of an increasing or ever-increasing quantity of information through the use of computer, people can participate in this explosion at 3 or 4 levels of computer knowledge. So what are these 3 or 4 levels of computer knowledge? Well, they were computer literacy, computer competence, computer expertise, and computer hacker. Let's first tackle computer literacy. Computer literacy is a general knowledge of what computers are used for and some general experience in using them. 2. Computer competence. Computer competence is the ability to use computer as a tool for particular purposes. Number 3. Computer expertise. Knowledge of how computers work and how to program them. And lastly, the computer hacker, a fourth and new one. He is more than an expert. He or she spends day and night working on games or problems, transmitting messages across the world or country or across the oceans, devising ingenious games and software to sell, and swapping new software among few hackers. In general, the hacker is freewheeling and adaptive to computer ferment. Now we know the role of computers, and as an educator, we should aim at making our students computer literate at early age and view computers literacy as a fourth R or a fundamental skill. So what is 4 R's of literacy? This is reading, writing, arithmetic, and algorithms. The 4th R that mentioned here is the algorithm. A process or a set of rules to be followed in calculations or other problem-solving operations, especially by a computer. This is according to Wikipedia Dictionary. Now, a teacher can become computer literate in a workshop that meet for a practice session. The time on training is not critical to teachers' ability to use computer as integral part of teaching day. The key factors is the attitude of the teacher. So, what is the key factors? It is the attitude of the teachers. It is because if the teacher is hesitant about using computer, many children will pick up the attitude. And if the teacher is enthusiastic, the children will be more eagerly and easily using the computer. According to one educator, a 15-hour workshop laboratory experience reduces anxiety, like fear of helplessness in dealing with computers, from above average anxiety 0.0 to 1.75, or let me paraphrase it, 3.4 to 1.75 out of 5, and increases in interest in computer from 1.96 to 4.08, or 1.96 to 4.8. Now let us discuss the components of computers, such as computer programming and computer software. Let's first discuss computer programming. Programming is an active mental endeavor, and it fosters critical thinking and rational thinking and problem-solving skills. Programmers must break down complex problems into sub-problems and then develop procedural instructors. One research study found that programming is the only subject in the whole curriculum that succeeds in teaching students about things as process, that writing and debugging a program forces the programmers to think logically and carefully about the subject. On the other hand, there is also research that suggests that there is no convincing relationship between learning to program and learning to think. Advocates counter this criticism by arguing that the amount of quality of computer instruction varies from study to study, that different students respond differently to different learning environments, and that students group controlled properly. Next is computer software. Computer software. Software is a program that enables a computer to perform a specific task as opposed to the physical components of the system, which is hardware. This is according to Science Daily. Instructional software offerings have gradually improved in quality and variety and are available for all students or to all subject areas and grade levels. No longer do not cover any isolated topics and provide practice in one or two skills. Current software present whole units and courses of instruction. Probably the most frequent criticism of software is the predominance of drill and tutorial programs. This is changing now, as more stimulations and interactive systems are being introduced, whereas early software permits a sequence questions with specific answers. The new software permits a variety of student response with branching to appropriate levels of instruction based on students' responses, which not only graphic at sound enhance but students also permits to experience something closer to real situation. There is a small but growing number of technology sound programs that integrate high-level thinking skills through pattern recognition, problem solving, decision making, and game playing skills. Some educators refer to this as mindware. Here are some examples of mindware. In selecting, evaluating, or purchasing software, teachers need to consider in general how well the program sustains students' interests and, most important, how well students will receive the process information. Teachers need to focus. So here are some process information that teachers needs to focus on. Number 1, how well that the software appeals to both the eyes and the mind, and how well visual and textual data are integrated. Number 2, how well the software helps students select and organize concepts and analyze and evaluate relationships. And lastly, number 3, how well the software promotes subjectively divergent and creative thinking. Here are some guidelines for using computers and computer software or computer programming. Number 1, a company that produces, distributes, or sells computers or computer materials should be willing to provide a number of services, such as the following. A. Installation assistance as part of the purchase, not as an add-on cost. B. User training as part of the computer purchases, like the more complicated the computer hardware or software, the more important the user training. C. Toll-free to call for answers to questions and solutions to problems. And lastly, D. Updates of software for little or no extra charges. Next, guided number 2, the use of computer in classroom should correspond, or the use of computer in the classroom should correspond with school's goals. Number 3, if only one computer is available for class use, you will have to devise large group instruction or divide the class into smaller groups that takes turns at the computer. You will not need several computers to permit several students to work on a program at the same time. Number 4, a group of teacher or curriculum specialists should preview software before it is purchased by the school. Number 5, decide on what you want to do with the computer. Number 6, establish criteria for use based on the objectives of your subject and the abilities and needs of your students. Number 7, Software should be suitable for your instructional grouping, such as individual, small group, and or large group. Number 8, the software should be easy to use. Number 9, the software should be sound in terms of instructional and learning theory. Number 10, the software should be capable of being integrated with other software with traditional materials into a comprehension curriculum and instructional package. Number 11, you should know what supporting materials are available that are interfaced with your computer hardware and software. Number 12, you should know to use both floppy and hard disk. Hard disks hold more data and access it more rapidly. However, floppy disks cost less and sufficient storage capacity for educational exercise. Number 13, software should provide user feedback on the display about what part of process is taking place or whether it is proceeding normally. The user should be able to correct simple problems. And lastly, number 14, periodically review and evaluate the software for quality and variety on a team basis. Be prepared to recommend supplementary courses materials. Now let's move to the next instructional technology, which is telecommunication systems. So what is telecommunication systems or telecommunication? Telecommunication refers to information exchanged between two or more locations connected by electronic media, including television, radio, and telephone. Several hundreds educational organizations, most likely large universities and state agencies, and a few school systems, lease or own their own telecommunication system. Lease-owned systems operate through telephone wires. Under telecommunication systems, we have satellite dishes. So here is an illustration or pictures of satellite dishes. Schools now can select television programs specifically developed for educational purpose, and some programs beamed into the classroom by satellite or through these satellite dishes. School can subscribe to various program series, for example, 24 one-hour commercial-free programs on how to improve writing or reading. The major producer of the television program for classroom use via satellite is the Agency for Instructional Television. It is a non-profit American-Canadian organization. Regularly scheduled commercial satellite service van include educational program for home, but this will happen only if educators call for it when available. So in our school, or in my experience in telecommunication systems, in our school we have Sinescuela that is usually used by teachers. Moving on to teleconference. So what is teleconference? Well, it is possible for people in different locations, even across state and national boundaries, to communicate and interact through television connections. Such conferences are widely used by business, government, and to lesser extent university. You see, teleconferencing is just appearing in a few school systems as an experiment on the secondary level. Group of students can meet with teachers and other resources people through television screen. The participants can watch, listen, ask questions, make discussion, as if they were across the table. It is a wonderful way students to speak to a decision as if they were across the table. As what I said, it is a wonderful way student to ask to an expert or communicate with their peers almost anywhere in the world. It is also an excellent way for small rural schools to have students meet with their teachers, especially if the school lacks the specialized personnel. So in our current situation, we have online schools done by Skypes or by Messenger, where we can have conference or schools or to proceed our education. Next is the teletext systems. So what is teletext systems? Teletext systems are one-way systems in which information is sent to receivers through television broadcast. So, it is a broadcasting. Receivers view that what is sent, but there is no interaction. So, unlike teleconference, we can participate, ask questions, but teletext systems has no interaction, no sound transmission. Teletext information systems permits the viewer to receive news, headlines, government reports, and various kinds of primary data. Such systems are currently used in business, medicine, research, and government. Educators will add to design teletext systems that can be used to advance by students. For example, a large information-based industry such as publishing and newspaper companies or libraries and universities might compile current information from various books, reports, journals, newspapers in electronic bins. By pressing the appropriate button or buttons, a user for the data bin from anywhere around the country could have selected information delivered electronically. So, example is this is the cell phone, or if you want to search on, just like in Japan, they have a technology that a student or a particular person can just go on a screen and click a button, then click the word what they want to know, what we call the electronic bins. Moving on to telewriting. So, what is telewriting? Telewriting operates through telephone lines. So, telephone lines. The visual is sent over telephone line and the audio is sent in conjunction through another telephone line. The telewriting devices is sometimes called electronic chalkboard. Although an overhead projector is used to enlarge the visual image for viewers, the fact that an oral presenter can accompany and explain the visual presentation makes the system more appealing for teachers. As with teletext, however, there is no two-way communication between sender and receiver. The device is useful for older students to receive information, but it does have limitation. So they have a limitation as an instructional tool since it does not permit two-way communication. So, just like teletext systems, we have no response, or it is not a two-way communication. Next is the telepicture phones. So the telepicture phones is an offshoot of telewriting system. It allows a person to send images from one monitor to another over a telephone line by focusing a camera on a person or document and pressing a button. The sender can transmit a picture to another unit in 6 to 30 minutes. An ordinary phone is plugged into the machine, similar to television set with an attached camera. Two-way voice communication through that phone is temporarily interrupted when the picture is sent. Pictures can be stored for recall later, but prints of the picture cannot be made. For purposes of learning, older students, at least at the middle or junior high school level, use this two-way audio and one-way video phone as supplement to the typical classroom instruction, both in school and at home. As an offshoot of this picture phone system, it is possible for distant schools or colleges to install microwave transmission systems that link the 2 points within 200-mile range. The audio hookbook is made with telephone line and visual in delivered through television. This long-distance learning is achieved without being charged long-distance rates. Next is telecourses. There may be telecourses available that suit your lesson, unit, or course objectives. Some telecourses requires a great deal of teacher feedback and other very few. Start compiling a list of telematerials that coincide with your subject or grade level. Evaluate criteria should be including the following. Number 1 is the telecourse design for a learning or for a lesson, unit, or course. Number 2 is the telecourse available for review. Number 3 is the content presented is varied and interesting format that takes full advantage of television's visual potential. Number 4, does the telecourses include support materials such as transparencies, handout, or test banks? Number 5, can the telecourse be used in conjunction with the text being used or with existing classroom materials? Number 6, is the content accurate and current? Number 7, is the cost to purchase or use the materials? Number 8, is the producer permits making multiple copies of the telematerials? And number 9, have the materials been pre-tested? So, upon discussing telecommunication systems, although some of these of what we discussed are obsolete, we can say that telecommunication systems are very useful. One of the useful telecommunication systems we are going to use are these through phones and through computers, through satellites, and through the work of internet. We will able to learn, even though there is only a one way or it is a two-way communication. So, moving on, here are some guidelines for using telecommunications. Number 1, decide just what you want to the system to do. Decide on the objectives and instructional use of systems like practice, tutoring, demonstrations, explanations, and problem solving. Number 2, consider use of the system in relation to the abilities, needs, and interests of your students. Number 3, find out what systems are available and how they work. Number 4, if programs are already available, review them. Find out what supporting materials and equipment are necessary, suitable, and available. Number 5, be sure that the system is easy to use and that instructions are easy to follow for students and for you. Be sure that the system Number 6, be sure that the system is manageable. That is, that not only will you know how to use it, but also you will be able to supervise students at the same time they use it. Number 7, find out what services and support the supplier will provide. Number 8, provide both the cost and reputation of the company who will install and repair the equipment. As what I said, we need to be careful and to use technology in a proper way. Telecommunication is also a best way to communicate, or it's also a good example of instructional technology. Finally, for our last instructional technology, video systems. Video technology has made available another valuable tool for instruction. There are several different video systems that made it possible for various audiovisual experiences to be produced, stored, and retrieved as needed. They permit the teachers and students to produce and create their own materials and to use audiovisual systems in numerous ways and in variety of learning situations. Teachers must plan how to integrate the new video technology into the curriculum. They also need to train children to become critical video consumers who are literate in reading images on their own and through in-service training. Teachers should investigate new methods to heighten awareness of how visual images affect us as individuals and as a society, and how students can enhance their aesthetic and thinking skills related to our television and video-dominated culture. In year 1985, the number of videos rented from video stores surpasses the total number of books checked out of libraries. The hope is that students will start checking out video documentaries or documentations, not on video movies and games, with gentle encouragement from the teachers. Under video systems, we have videotapes, video cassettes, video discs, video printers, and video games. Videotapes. Videotapes have many applications for instruction. They can demonstrate, explain, record, and replay. They can be used in classroom, libraries, resource centers, and homes. Recent advantages have made video recording and playback equipment lightweight, portable, and relatively inexpensive. The teacher and students can record various events back the recording in the class through a VCR system attached to a television. Interviews, community meeting, special events, and students' projects can be recorded. Students can produce videos based on their own stories or research. Some large school districts now produce their own videos through recording departments and also distributes them to surrounding school systems. Students never have to miss a lesson since video can stored and playback at a convenient time. Next is video cassettes. So video cassettes are even easier than tapes to collect, store, and reuse as needed because they are extremely lightweight and small. Considering the cost of equipment needed to record and play back the cassettes, its potential is enormous. Video disc. Most videos are recorded on tapes or cassettes. Recording are also made on video discs, which resemble a long records but have a larger storage capacity and are not subject to damage while in use. Video discs, usually made of metal, contain digitized information that is read by laser beams. The picture resolution and tuning is finer than that of magnetic tape, and the quality doesn't deteriorate with time. The disadvantage of video discs are that they are more expensive than can be made only by professionals, and they cannot be erased or edited. So some of these are obsolete, and for nowadays, instead of videotape, video cassettes, and video discs, we use what? We use USBs or even smaller tapes. So we have here some illustrations of evolution of from videotapes or hardware or to software. Now moving on to video printers. What is video printers? The video printer attaches to the television and produces a postcard-sized color print of almost anything you can see on the screen almost instantly. This includes not only regular broadcast television. Picture can be made at the rate of 1 a minute of such thing as maps, weather forecasts, data for detailed study, or snapshots from students-made videotapes. Whatever material needs to be further explained can be printed and stored for future use. So, in our cell phone, we have screenshot. So in other terms, and in this lesson, we have video printers where we can able to have a screenshot or to have a hard copy of the lesson or the maps or weather forecast that is needed for us to learn. And lastly, under video systems, we have video games. So I think every one of us has experience in playing video games. So video games, moving on, video games attaches a microcomputer is programmed to respond to a player's move of its own. All serious video game players play for mastery, but most video games are sufficiently difficult that novice players are lucky if they can play more than 2 or 3 minutes of the first tries. So most of us play video games for fun. The problem indication is that it provides an escapist reaction. Some shows proliferation of sex and violence. So in video games, it can't be avoided that there are some scenes or there are some video games that violence and sex is or can be easily be seen or in the plot, such as these kinds of video games. Okay, moving on. Practice in eye coordination and manual dexterity are the obvious benefits. So, the benefits of video games are eye coordination and manual dexterity. Also, educational material in video games format could be pedagogical, devised livingly up to practice and real teaching, writing and other learning skills, and solving math and science problems. So, in addition of examples of mindware under computer software. We also have some other video games that can be also helpful for practice and drills, teaching, writing, and others. Okay, here are some guidelines for using video games. Number 1, be sure the use of video systems is compatible with and leads to attainment of course objectives. Number 2, review the most surprising system and programs. Evaluate the video, just as you analyze textbook content. Is the video content educational, accurate, presented clearly, free from bias? Number 3, find out what services and support the supplier of equipment and materials will provide. Number 4, find out what supporting equipment and materials are needed and available. Number 5, monitor students' responses in interactive programs for purposes of diagnosis and evaluation. Number 6, observe the students and try to notice emotional response and development of decision-making ability. Number 7, be clear on the pace for learning classroom, library, resource center, home, etc. Be sure that the video accomplishes your instructional purpose, like practice and drill, tutoring, simulation, problem solving. And lastly, be sure that the video is suitable for instructional grouping patterns such as individualized, small group, whole group, or anything you plan to use. Moreover, we have here some tips for using videos in classroom. First tip, review the video you are considering. Second, ask yourself the following questions about the video. Is it interesting? Is the technical quality good? Does it have appropriate content? Can I as a teacher use this video effectively? Does it generate student activities or discussion? Third tip, select the parts that fit your objectives. The VCR permits easy and effective editing that is shown so that you can use only the parts you need. The fourth tip is plan how the video will be used in actual lesson or activity. So here are the plan: to introduce new material, to preview prior learning, to support ideas or concepts, to enrich the viewer's world, to explore feelings of subjects and viewers, to clarify special points, and to reinforce key concepts. The fifth tip is prepare the students. Tell them, number 1, what to expect, how to assess what they see. Number 2, what to expect them to get out of the activity. Number 3, what to watch for or what to take down in the notes. Number 4, what you will do after viewing of the video. Sixth tip, stop, explain if necessary, ask questions, make comments, or emphasize points of special importance. Fast forward through the parts that are not useful in the lesson. Seventh tip, follow up by summarizing the video, reminding students of the planned expectations and generating discussion with questions and comments. And lastly, evaluate the video to determine if you want to use it again. Here are some questions that you can use to evaluate. Number 1, do you need to modify or edit it? Number 2, do you need better equipment? Or 3, What better follow-up activities can you use next time? To end this discussion, let's go to the theory into practice. The potential for learning is immense. As educators, we must note that electronic media are increasingly supplementing, even replacing traditional printed material in school and flooding our house. As computers take their places in the classroom, as televisions and videos become more interactive, and teledevices provide instant information, students have more tools for thinking and learning, and teachers have broadened ability to invigorate their teaching and instructional process. The new technology gives students more control over learning and teachers more knowledge and option to guide the process of teaching. In order to use technologies effectively, it's worthwhile to remember some guidelines for operation. Here are some guidelines for operation. Number 1. Familiarize yourself with the special material and equipment available in the classroom or center you are assigned to. Number 2. Find out what special materials and equipment are available elsewhere in the school and what checkout procedures apply to their use. Number 3. Learn how to operate the equipment you can plan to use. Number 4. Review special materials and evaluate their suitability for the lesson you have in mind. Number 5. Order the special materials and evaluate their suitability for the lessons you have in mind. Number 6. Review the materials again if you have time before using them. Number 7. Prepare a standby set of plans in case the equipment breaks down or something else goes wrong. Number 8. Set up equipment before class begins. Number 9. Avoid using too many different types of materials in one class period or in one class period. And lastly, number 10. Return the equipment to the proper storage place where you can finish with it. Report all defective equipment and materials. Good day everyone. So this is the end of my discussion. Thank you for listening and God bless.